Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Now, those two unapologetically biased orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, Orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe. At Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia. Syracuse suffers its worst loss of the season, 41-24 at home against Notre Dame. Brutal Russian attack. It was just too much for the Orange to handle. And the Irish rushed 56 times for 246 yards. Brutal on both ends of the ball for Syracuse. You'll hear from us and we'll hear from you in fan feedback. We will go live on YouTube and Spotify Live app, on the Spotify Live app. So, 2 losses in a row. The sky's not falling. It does not feel good to lose, as we are coming off of a 6 in a row win streak. And it's all about perspective at this point, I think. And if you would have asked me in the beginning of the year, I told you that Syracuse was going to lose against NC State, which they won, Clemson, and Notre Dame. So my one, what would be considered the upset pick that I had besides Louisville, the bigger one, preseason-wise, would have been Pitt. And we're headed there next. Clean slate. So we will see what we can do with that. And, of course, we will be here Tuesday for it to give you our thoughts on all of that. But before we get started, as always, let's hear what Coach had to say following the game.
Just wanted to, I'm really disappointed about the loss, but I'm still feel good about this football team. We're 6-2. The 2 opponents that we just played were extremely, extremely physical, which we all knew was going to happen before the season started. And obviously some of that stuff is taking the toll. I told the team to stay together, which we will do, and we will try to find ways as coaches to get them as fresh as we can to the football game, the next football game, to give their bodies the best opportunity to heal so that we can put our best performance together, okay, out in front of us against our next opponent. When it comes to Garrett Schrader, the reason why he was out of the game is I watched him. I've been one of those guys, I've sat back and watched what happened, and this has nothing to do with the head injury before you guys say this, but I'm going to give you the example. But I've watched the things that happened to the Michigan quarterback, and I was watching years back, and I was watching him like, you can see that from the sideline. And then I watched the things that have happened with Tua and the Miami Dolphins. I'm like, whoa. But I just didn't feel like he could protect himself. He's a fighter. He wanted to be out there. He did not want to come out of the game, but just in watching the first half, he just didn't have all the tools in his toolbox. And I just didn't think it was fair to have him out there with all those athletes that was trying to, archers trying to get him in his sights. And it just didn't seem like it was fair to me. So that was the only reason we made the move. There's not a quarterback controversy. When Schrader is healthy, Schrader will go. I thought that Del Rio, if I had to grade him without seeing the tape, I don't like doing that stuff like that. My grade would be a C, but I'll go back and watch the tape and see. But we felt like we had a chance to win. The game went the way I thought the game would go. If I was them, that's the way I would play the game. And my hat goes off to Coach Freeman and Notre Dame. They played it the way I thought they would play it, and they had success. The early interception house call was not in our favor, and obviously, when you throw an interception for a touchdown and you get a punt block for a touchdown, that's tough to overcome. But I don't think the kids gave up. I thought they fought extremely well. And we've got to get into the healing process. We're 1 loss down in the ACC Atlantic Championship column. and we just want to go out and get one more win and see what happens with that race. Okay? So questions?
Start with Emily in front over at the end.
So just want to make sure we're all on the same page. You said Schrader does not have a head injury.
Not at all.
And did he have an injury coming into this game? Is that why you said he didn't have all the tools?
Absolutely.
And then with Garrett Williams, was that a re-aggravation of what he already had, something new? Do you have a status update on him?
I don't have a status update on him. I believe I know what it is, but I'm not completely sure, and I don't want to put out a false thing.
Yeah.
Dino, 246 yards they had on the ground against you. 3 different running backs showed that they had a dynamic backfield. Just what you can say about your defense against that today and how you shore that up moving forward.
Well, we just ran out of guys. You know, we've only got so many. I thought that, you know, they kept putting that ball in there, and unless you're going to match scores with them on offense or get out in front of them where they can't play that style, that's exactly the style they should have played, and they did play it. And they've got they've got 7 offensive linemen, they got 4 tight ends, you know, that, and they just turned around and kept handing the ball to those 3 different backs.
All right, Joe, just seeing this here a couple seconds ago, Syracuse dropped to 22nd in the AP poll for what it's worth. You know, I mean, we're still there. And not that it really matters. A number next to the name for me at this point doesn't matter unless, you know, if we beat Clemson, I'm caring a little bit more about that, I think, right? But with that said, for what it's worth, we're 22nd sitting there right now. So going into Pitt next week at Pitt. Okay, so obviously Coach disappointed about the loss. He feels good about the team. Very important that after 2 losses, as demoralizing as it can feel, like we talked about, you don't lose the team, which I just don't feel like that is an issue that Coach will be really having to deal with. You got 2. He says 2 physical games in a row, but I mean it was really 3. It was 3 physical games in a row. And, you know, I think he mentions the coaches need to find a way to keep these guys fresh and to heal the best they can in the best possible way going into next week to help them win. So with that said, we'll talk about Garrett Schrader here in a second. But it is at this point about nursing the issues that they have. Obviously, things are wearing a little bit thin. I think we've seen that in the past. You know, I mean, well, we've been seeing it kind of all year, but I think it's piling up, right? So, yeah. Joe, 2 losses in a row, in perspective, not like the end of the world. I mean, we're still going to a bowl game. It's a matter of managing what we have left with what we've got and getting these guys healthy to finish out this year and getting into that bowl game. So.
Yeah, well, that's what we worried about, and again, that's
the November bug,
right? And so this is normally, you know, what happens in October. You know, as we play these tough games, and whether we win, lose, normally they are very competitive, very physical. That's normally where, for some reason, we end up playing the most physical teams, and then it's where are you in, you know, going into November, and I'm not just going to say it's just us because it's never just one team. I mean, all teams deal with injuries and have to deal with this stuff. But and to be perfectly honest with you, I think that we've seen a situation where you've seen in certain positions that our depth has gotten better and has stepped up and has still kept us in games. So very, very unfortunate. But yeah, it's definitely managing the health of these kids. And sometimes you wonder if some of these guys playing, you know, taking a chance instead of sitting out 1 week,
maybe could have made a difference. You know, just to take yourself out, like Garrett. I mean, you might as well talk about it now. We knew he was injured last game. He was even asked about it coming out of the locker room, or I think Coach was asked about it. Well, no, they were both asked about it coming out of the locker room. He was limping. He goes into this game with a hobble. You know, we did see it looked like a knee to the helmet or something, Joe.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, well, that was the play where when he tried to get up, he hobbled. But when you look at it, he kind of stepped on his lineman's foot, too.
Yeah,
plus, we know that his ankles were the situation as far as what was going on. I don't know if they're high ankle sprains or whatever, but those can linger for sure. And, yeah, I mean, there was there was plays where you saw, like, obviously you knew that, like, okay, we're going to make more of an effort to get it to Tucker. But there were some where it was blatant wide open that he didn't keep. He just didn't look like himself. And, I don't know if it was just a talking error on Dino, or if it was just, something that he just gave up and didn't know. But, when he was talking and explaining about, him watching him and everything, and he said, not even talking about the head injury. And he said that, and then it's like, sounded like he made it sound like there was a head injury, but even before that. So who knows? But at the end of the day, before, even if he did get a head injury, if he got a little woozy with that knee, who knows if it was really the right call. And really the way that was going, because it happened, and then we go down and we score a touchdown, and the game was going so fast as far as the time-wise. You get through the first half before really figuring out that this just isn't going to work. And then that's when you start questioning, should we even allow him to go? So, there's always the hindsight questions. But, Schrader's a warrior, and he's going to go out there. If he thought he had a chance to go, then, but in hindsight.
Yeah, it's always easy to say in hindsight this, that, or the other. I don't know if the outcome of the game would have been any different had he not started. The main thing, I guess, for me would be that he doesn't further injure himself. And coach took him out because he was almost a still target, basically. Look, those guys are out for blood. He sees his guy who is wounded, and he doesn't want to take the chance of making it any worse. So,
yeah. There is an argument there, kind of, right? Because if Schrader doesn't start and Del Rio Wilson does, is the first play of the game a pick six?
Well, probably not. Where are the chances?
Right. So, you don't know what would have happened, and if Del Rio Wilson looked pretty good. And who knows if he would have just been giving him the go, from the beginning, if he knew that he had it and was preparing all week for it and went in. Even though he spoke in the post press conference talking about how he always, tries to get himself ready to play just in case. But, if he knew that he was getting the starting ball and went out there and tried to establish something, who knows? You never know. You never know.
And, that just, the game went, like Coach said, the game went the way we thought it. Other than us predicting wins, right? It was a hopeful pick for me, to say the least.
Oh, me too.
But we did stress the running game and what it was about. And you got four guys coming into this game, averaging 4+ yards a carry, and it was a brutal rushing attack. Esteme, whatever the hell his name is.
Have we been saying it wrong the whole time?
I said esteem. You know why I said esteem? Because that's what Siri told me it was. I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Esteme.
So.
There's no little hyphen
Grizzly
over there.
Esteme? We've been saying it wrong
the
whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Well, either way.
Go figure. But we knew what the rush game was going to be coming into here. Now, look, it's just chunks and chunks and over and over and over and over, right? And it was just brutal in the fact that it seemed constant. It was 56. Joe, you brought up the fact that, Clemson, 293 yards to Notre Dame's 246. And also, they rushed it 60 times to Notre Dame's 56. So, when you put things into perspective, Clemson was actually more successful. Now I don't know if this is updated as of today or yesterday, but Syracuse sits 37th in rush defense. That's at least after the Clemson game. Okay, no, it's been updated. So I can give you the updated number right now. But not looking terrible. We know that they're 62nd now after that game. So you take two games and they dropped like a rock. Now we know that there was some issues there, but it was plugging a hole in a boat. Kind of like they did a decent job, you know what I mean? But you go through the NC State game, and then you go on the road against Clemson. You get rushed 60 times, and then another 56. That's a lot, freaking lot. 116 times in two games. It's a ton. 116 in two games. That's a ton with over 500 yards. So it's just brutal, and it's just unfortunate that that's how the schedule panned out, really. What it comes down to. I'm not making excuses either.
No, but it wouldn't really matter when we played this team because of their match. I mean, you saw there was
It's a bad
times where they had
matchup. Yeah.
the quarterback and a running back, and then it was nothing but just offensive linemen and tight ends, and they were just running down our throat. And obviously, that's when, like, the 3-3-5, it's it's a little undersized, but it's super fast. They attack, and they swarm you like hornets. But at the
That's
end
why
of the
they
day,
couldn't get outside on them. They just ran up the middle.
right? Every time they went outside, we stopped them, right? And their passing game really didn't scare me either. We made plenty of plays there. So really, the only way that you attack that and you win is going right up to the middle, which is exactly what they did. And when you play against a team like that, number one, they're going to run down clock. They're going to just run down the field. They're going to get the first downs. And it's one of those teams where you can't let them get up. You want to get up early. You want to force them to be a little bit more aggressive than what they want to be, and make them kind of have to throw the ball and do different things like that. And then obviously you want them to make mistakes, which there were a few, but on both sides. And obviously the worst one was, and the biggest one was the pick six, first play of the game. And that's, if you want, there's nothing else better than you as a Notre Dame fan and player and team and coach would ask for, is to go up that fast like that.
Going up 7 points in 7 seconds.
Right. And because of the way that they play offense, especially when they have a lead, that is going to take away, it's going to reduce the amount of offensive drives that you have, which means that you have less drives. So when you go 3 and out or you're not successful, then it just makes it that more pertinent early to get back. And obviously, heads up in the third quarter of, Del Rio Wilson making some plays. They got back in within 7. There's a couple of times where our defense, 2 times in a row, I believe they stopped Notre Dame with 3 and outs, and they really actually put us in a spot to get back in the game. And then you get the tip pass, and
you get the tip pass, but you get there's a couple plays in between all of that where they you get the tip pass in the block punt.
Drop balls.
Okay, the drop balls in between all of that though, before this thing got blown open, and I think that on paper it looks a whole lot worse than it really was, right? Because you got the picks. Now it happened. Okay, got our asses.
I don't know if on
to
paper
us.
it looks worse. I think the score looks worse.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The score looks worse. The final score makes it look a whole lot worse than it was. But and it happened. So we got our asses handed to us at the end of the day. But you got
that's an
7
intercept
points
for return and a blocked punt that gets them down to the 2-yard line.
Yeah,
right?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's 14 points. So. But it happened, so it doesn't freaking matter. But those two huge plays in under 10 seconds, all of that stuff could be accumulated 14 points. Under 15 seconds for sure.
My whole point is that, like, in the past, right, like playing against a Notre Dame team like this at this point in the season, losing your starting quarterback like that, like, don't we normally lose that game by 30 or 40? Like. I don't know. Like I said, again, it's the whole moral victory, this and that, but I just see a deeper team that still fought. Our defense, to me,
well, these teams under Coach Babers have always fought. I think it's just the culture that he's breeding. But I totally understand where you're going. The depth isn't where we want it to be. It's not where it needs to be, but it's better than it has been in the past few years.
Right, but did you look at the defense, right? The defense, you want to say they ran down our throat. You take away the pick six, you take away the block punt, which, it's hard to just say take away, but those aren't plays that the defense had nothing to do with. Then you're talking about a 27-24 game. So, that's a completely different game. Now, obviously, those type of game changers are hard to come back on. And obviously, when you lose, you look at what the other team did successfully, and that was 100% run the ball. But just like Clemson, they did the same thing, but they made a whole bunch of mistakes and kept us in the game. And then against Notre Dame, they didn't make as many mistakes, and we still kept ourselves in the game. It was just we killed ourselves, and we got better with the penalties, but got worse with the turnovers. And Notre Dame, they were successful running, and they reduced our drives, and it's as simple as that. But I thought that we fought admirably, considering the type of recruiting classes that they have versus what we have.
We mentioned, I'll just skip because the last of that montage is Coach talking about all 7 linemen and 4 tight ends.
Yeah,
you line up like that, and what do you do? Garrett Williams, just
looks bad.
he was helped off the field. I think he went off on crutches or came back on crutches, one or the other. It didn't look good. And, unfortunately, right when you think you're going to get a big playmaker back, he gets hurt. And I guess we'll keep our eyes on that for the next couple of days.
I don't think that had anything to do with the previous injury either.
No, it didn't, because it looked like an ankle again, right? Or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, it looked like, so he was going back. He was getting pushed backwards on that interception that Jahad Carter had trying to block for him up front. And it just looked like he was getting pushed back, and he tried to kind of plant his knee to try to, get some, get a grip and try to, block this guy, hold his own, and he ended up getting tossed. And, the way that Babers makes it sound is, I think I know what it is, but we'll have to wait and see type thing. To me, that's like, you think you know what it is, but really you don't know until the MRI confirms it. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow during the press conference, Coach announced that Garrett Williams lost for the season.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. And while we're on it, I wouldn't be surprised to not see Garrett Schrader. To your point, probably going to be best to let him heal up. And, I don't know if it takes 1 week or 2 weeks, but...
Dude, if it's a high ankle sprain, man, sometimes those are worse than breaks. And they're so easy to just tweak. It's not like one of those things where it just gradually gets better and then you can't make it worse. Like, it can feel good and then you can just tweak it, and now there you go. You just lost 2-3 weeks of rehab. You're just going backwards.
Yeah, and we got, definitely won't see him for Pitt would be my guess, and then the last home game in the Dome against Florida State. So, just back to Del Rio Wilson. If, he knows he's going to be prepping to be the number one this week, and he cleans a couple little things up, I mean, there's a ton of hope in this kid. I feel better with Del Rio Wilson back there than I would a lot of others, and I don't think we've had the depth at quarterback that we do now either. Just speaking of depth, it hasn't really been like that.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, we've had way worse options in the past. Than Del Rio Wilson.
And he did good, and I don't think his numbers are entirely fair. You got Mr. Reliable, I think, dropped in around a Gadsden. I think he probably dropped close to 3. I don't even know how many others were.
Cooper dropped one. I know Amari Hatcher dropped one that Del Rio Wilson put right in the basket. Yep. I mean, dude, he looks like he has a better arm than Schrader. So it's just really just cleaning it up. But he's like a little ball of energy.
Scramble, too, yeah.
Yeah, he can move. It's just, I think that he's got to be able to control his emotions. And, sometimes, you saw even with the tip pass, I don't know if you saw the different angle where he had a tip pass and
he ran.
It got intercepted.
Yeah.
Well, it got intercepted, right? But, I mean, when you look at what was behind that, I mean, even if that wasn't tipped, I'm not so sure that doesn't get intercepted anyway. So, but he was in a groove. They just scored 10 points. They were down 7. The Dome was rocking. And then that was kind of, that was like our last chance to steal the momentum back and get back in the game. I think that kind of.
The Dome was rocking. People left early. I mean, I'm not here to criticize that or anything. There was a huge hole in the student section. Tegan Brown said that the picture I saw, I guess, was before the game really started, and then she showed me a picture like with it when it was somewhat filled in. It's a huge hole up there.
Yep.
So, but the crowd was loud as hell.
It was. Well, when it needed to be early, right?
Right.
And then what happens then, that's the other thing with a team like Notre Dame, is they're so just slow and run the ball, first down, run the ball, that it actually, gets the crowd out of the game, and especially when you're losing. So that's when it's tough, because that's when the team needs to get some energy themselves to get the crowd back in, and not vice versa. And they did that with Del Rio Wilson making some plays, defense stepping up. But there was just too many times where defense made a stop or got the ball back, and then it was 3 and out or interception, right back out on the field.
Yeah, they were out there. There was a couple 3 and outs in a row there, especially in the first half, where it was just like you just saw that the way this was going to be brutal. And then they do make the change, and you get this little glimmer of hope in you That it didn't last long,
there.
but boy, it was there.
The opportunity was there, and if the receivers made some plays, man, I'll tell you what. They talked about getting a second receiver. DeMarcus Adams stepped up and made a couple big plays. Once Del Rio Wilson got in there, so you can tell that they got a little bit of something that they've done in practice. And they gave Amari Hatcher some spots there. He had 2 catches for 26 yards. Almost brought that one on the sideline in.
Yeah, it was close.
It was like a foot
that
or
was
whatever.
A game. That was another potential game-changing play too.
And then with the one that he did, Del Rio Wilson dropped in the breadbasket and it just went through his hands. I mean, they had a couple opportunities there, man, and you just got to be able to seize them. And it's just
here's the thing on the block punt, man. Well, I heard coach's explanation for it, and it was the same explanation that I think I heard last year when he came in and almost the same exact thing happened. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean,
he came in a situation where they thought that it would be better to put James Williams out there, and it wasn't better. And the same thing happened. The same thing. I don't think that one might have got blocked, but it was like 10 yards. It was something bad. Something bad happened. But I associate bad punts with James Williams, and I'm not trying to pick on the kid, but man, the kid's got a lot. He's got a low light reel of punts at Syracuse. He's a talented kid too. He was like in one. Wasn't he like a?
He was
right.
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but he was in something. He was
like
noticed.
Kicking something or other.
Yes,
he was one of the better ranked guys.
Yes. So
he's supposed to be like top 10 in punting and kicking, but hey, maybe that was just a weak kicking class. You never know.
Holy smokes. I just would advise against that. I mean, Von Marburg, he had a couple short punts, but they weren't terrible. I mean,
there was one bad.
There was one bad one. There was. They got it in their own territory or our territory. So there was, but that hasn't been the norm for him this year at all. So, if I'm going to question anything, it's going to be that. I think everything else was just matchup issues, and I attribute it to that. And I mean, as pissed off as I was, but mostly not so much for the loss, it's who you're losing to. I hate Notre Dame. I can't stand them. Hate's a strong word. I don't mean it like that. I'm just saying, as far as sports goes, like Notre Dame, Pitt for football, they're the worst. They're the worst. So, anyways, we move on.
It sucked because it was a situation where certain things I felt like needed to happen for us to be able to win that game, and it was highs and lows, and it was almost like as soon as they got that first interception in the beginning, I was like, okay, now they're going to be able to play exactly the way they want to. Well, they got a lead.
We came back down and scored and tied that thing up.
We did, but still just.
Well, you had to have felt good about it.
So, I mean, I didn't just from the beginning, just that interception, I said, oh boy. And then seeing the way that Schrader was moving around, thought it was going to be a long day. And to be perfectly honest with you, after I saw the first half, I was just glad that we actually came back in some semblance and actually
put up a fight,
had some life back in the dome, and had a situation where we were down 7 with the ball and could have made something happen.
Yeah, I agree. All right, it's time to hear from you.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
You guys know what to do at the end of every game. I ask for your thoughts on said game. You leave them. We talk about them here. And this always makes for an interesting time, and that is the fact that I have not looked at any of these yet because I usually give it overnight anyway. And I
thought you were going to start proofreading these.
That's what I'm saying. I failed. I not only failed, but I didn't even come close. Because at least normally I look at them. Like, just,
Yeah.
fly by. I didn't do that. So here we go.
There was some good ones on Facebook.
Okay, well, Facebook is where most of the action was at. So let's just start there. And let me see if this works. Boom. All right. Okay. All right. Thoughts on game. Okay, Johnny. Notre Dame took a page out of Clemson's plan. Notre Dame ran the ball 50-plus times and only had 19 passing attempts. There he is. Defensive line is undersized, giving up easily 50, 60 pounds a guy. Hard to get stops after being worn down the last 2 games, especially when our offense has 3 and outs. Yes, I'm not calling for a QB change, but Del Rio Wilson can sling it around pretty good. I think Schrader should start if he's healthy enough, but it was good to see Del Rio Wilson more than capable to come in and play when needed. So there is not a quarterback controversy, I don't think, amongst many fans, but there definitely is amongst some. Okay, which it just takes nothing sometimes for those types of things to happen. And
you can see why, though.
I mean, well, hold on a second. I understand that he's fully capable, and I agree. But, and I'm happy about that.
Well,
but
do you think there was anything
injured.
he did better?
Anything that? Ask me again.
You don't think there's anything he did better than Schrader?
I mean, he throws a nice ball. But Schrader, I'm not going to compare the two during this game at all. I mean, I don't even think that's fair.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. So, I mean, we know what Schrader is. We've seen what he's done when he's healthy, right? And he can kill you on the ground. And there's with certain plays and certain setups, he's pretty good with that. But we have seen, in the recent games, that he's had situations, difficult times, getting into the next progressions, trying to hit anybody other than Arondé Gadsden or Sean Tucker. And
he's having a hard time. He's having a hard time not throwing into the guys he knows can catch
before he takes off, right? And so the one thing I saw yesterday was, he was making progressions. He was throwing to a whole bunch of different receivers, giving them chances, good chances to catch balls. And realistically, those receivers could have bailed him out a lot better than what they did. But when you look at the read option, Schrader looks way more smooth with that. Schrader looks more smooth running the ball. Del Rio Wilson can, but sometimes it looks a little frantic. There's definitely probably positives and negatives, and I'm sure that there's some fans that saw some of those positives, and it looks to me like he had a stronger arm. I don't know about accuracy, because Schrader's been pretty accurate this year, but he's obviously gotten something with DeMarcus Adams, right?
Well,
we haven't seen him, and all of a sudden,
that's very true.
So, and he's been thrown with him second team and everything,
exactly.
right? So you bring this guy in, he's bringing different.
He can bring different aspects, which is
right.
Which just goes to show. You look at Arondé Gadsden. Arondé Gadsden dropped at least 2 of his passes that I remember. So there's that.
Arondé's used to catching from Schrader.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I understand it. I just don't think it's a realistic thing. I don't think it's something that I just feel like sitting here and humoring, to be honest with you. Is that fair?
I don't think that there's a controversy, right? But there's been so in the past, I feel like we've played quarterbacks maybe when we shouldn't have because of our options below them. And I just feel like in this scenario, quarterback has to be a lot more healthy before you put him in there, because Del Rio Wilson, I think, is a viable option, viable backup. And maybe in years where the starting quarterback was still better at 70%, maybe now he has to be closer to 85, 90. Because Schrader without his wheels, I feel like Del Rio Wilson's probably better.
Okay, I just feel like with Schrader healthy, I feel so comfortable with him in there.
Oh, but he's healthy, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So I guess the other thing would be that we don't
rush him back.
No, absolutely not. Which was to what I was just going to say. We're gonna get to see Del Rio Wilson probably for the full game next week. Would be my guess. If I had to put my money on it, I'd say he starts the game next week, and Schrader's probably out. So we'll get to see it.
Based upon what I saw, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to see it from start to finish, probably. Let's see. Let's go with our boy Zach here. Top fan. Yes. I voiced my concerns about our D-line, and unfortunately they came to fruition. Receivers need to step up there, where at least 4 or 5 game-changing passes that were dropped. Yeah, Joe, we just talked about that on the front end of things, and I totally agree. I think that there were some momentum-shifting plays that passes were dropped, or the one that he didn't come in bounds on, and
like I said, Hatcher, he had one right through his arms that wasn't close to the sideline. I mean, it was on the sideline, but he would have been in easy if he would have caught it right through his hands. And Rondé Gatson dropped a couple first downs that he's usually pretty good with. So,
and then so Anthony's in the green room. SU fans learned nothing from DeVito coming in for Dungy in 2018, except for DeVito actually came back and we won that game. That was the difference. But it was trending that way. And it just goes to show, I think, the promise of this young kid, man. I mean, I think it's freaking fantastic. And maybe there's some things they work him in for next year. I mean, that's, college football used to do a lot of that. They've kind of gotten away from that dual quarterback stuff. I haven't seen much of that. You know what I'm saying? Used to be a thing all the time.
Yeah, they used to be, but then you're always going to have those coaches that said if you're playing two quarter, if you have
you don't
two
have
quarterbacks,
one that's
you
good
have
enough.
none, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
But I mean, then you look at the Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, Florida year. I mean, that was a two quarterback type situation where they made it work. So there's teams that can make it work. I don't know if it would necessarily make sense for us.
I don't think so either. But I mean, there's situations where you can do a couple plays here or there and just keep people guessing. I mean, obviously there was a wrinkle when Del Rio Wilson came in. I mean, there was a wrinkle. They looked like they could have imploded. That tip pass, the block punt, those things, just unfortunate things that just kept Notre Dame right in it.
Right. Well, he looks more like a quarterback for playing the spread, the spread, and just go wild.
Pocket passer, yeah.
Yeah, right. And obviously you have to have the whole running attack in there for that as well, too. Obviously, Schrader's better with the RPOs and stuff like that. But he has gotten better as, being spread and throwing it this year, too. So, again, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy, at least this year, based upon Schrader. But I'm not going to lie. I mean, Del Rio Wilson, you could see the tools. You could see everything there. I know Anthony in the green room, there's obviously let's see you can do in film, yes. But then there was also some throws in there that Amari Hatcher just right in the breadbasket. I mean, I don't know if Schrader can make that throw, and he's got a pretty good arm. So, if nothing, this tells us that we have a bright future, at quarterback position because, we have Lenora Sellers coming in next year too, who's, he's going to come in and he's going to compete. He's not going to be a slouch. I don't see him pressing these two guys next year, but overall, we've talked about it before, the excitement of that quarterback room right now. We got a lot of talented guys in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I would say.
Yeah,
not something.
Lamson too. Matt Sherman. Yeah, Lamson.
Let's see. David on Facebook. I hate that they lost. I also remember that nobody thought they would win 3 games in the beginning of the season. Defense is losing too many players, but this was the worst game they played all season in all 3 phases. That's an excellent point. We got beat everywhere. Special teams, offense, defense, just clobbered. And you can't, what Clemson did to Syracuse last week in being able to win that game, come from behind and win that game with 4 turnovers. It's just not something Clemson's built like that. They're built to be able to do something like that. Syracuse is not. When you have these mistakes and you can't play a clean game in all 3 phases, then that's where we're at. I mean,
not against that talent.
Not against that talent. No, absolutely not. And yeah, they're just big, and I still think that Notre Dame's gonna lose a couple more. I think I talked to Tyler last night. He thought that they might be in the AP top 25. They didn't break it by beating us. He thought there was a chance of that. They didn't break it. I wasn't sure about that, but. Wake Forest got clobbered last night by Louisville. Dropped 10 spots. So from 10th to 20th. They were in the college football playoff talk. And
yeah, ranked 10th.
Yeah.
But they've only played Clemson, and they started out ranked, so.
David goes on. Yeah, David goes on. On a positive note, Del Rio looked good provided a spark. Unfortunately, D was gassed by then, and offense gave too many turnovers. Time to go 1-0 against Pittsburgh next week. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. We're looking at trying to do that every week, and I think looking at what's left, 4 games left. I mean, they could win. Here's the thing. They could win all 4 of them. I'm a little nervous about Pitt. And people tell me I shouldn't be, but just for whatever reason, that game's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, they got a great running back, I'll tell you that, but I don't think they have the offensive line of Clemson or Notre Dame. And that's the whole thing is, as good as even NC State was, we knew coming in this season that the two teams, no matter where they were when we play them, that had the best talent and the best offensive line to just line up and just run it down our throats and be able to just kind of disable our 3-3-5 attacking speed defense is Clemson and Notre Dame. And, I mean, didn't surprise me. Saturday didn't surprise me, and the pick six from the beginning didn't help. And I think we still played them tougher than we've played those type of teams in the past with the, the type of adversity that we were going through with injuries and mistakes. But I don't think you can have a bigger mistake than a pick six first play of the game. So
that's highly unlikely to be a thing. I mean, what are the chances?
Right. So,
and you could tell. By the way, you could tell that was one of the telling plays. I'm sorry, Joe, to interrupt you, but that was one of the telling plays for me. But we're both pretty good at it. That was one of the telling plays for me as far as Schrader goes, because that was a very half-ass handled attempt at a tackle. So. It was kind of a grab, but anyway.
Yeah. So you just can't have those teams with with that talent after losing to them. You can't have them beat you the weeks afterwards. So
yeah. Let's see. Joe P on Facebook, top fan. Defense can only do so much with what the offense special teams gives them. Offense looked disjointed. Hopefully they get things figured out moving forward. Our buddy Dominic, not in the green room today, but he does leave this here. Let's see. Did he write a book? Almost. Let's see.
Short story.
Yeah. Let's see. 2 things here. Yes, they are fresh, but they have to be said. 1, if we can't stop or at least slow down the run the rest of the season, there is a possibility of not winning another game. It's demoralizing to me, and I'm not even playing in the game. Number 2, it was obvious that Schrader was hurt. The small part of the second quarter that I saw. I love how Dino is a player's coach and will be loyal, but if you're not helping the team when you're hurting the team, if you're not helping the team, you're hurting the team, and the team should have been taken out sooner. And he should have been taken out sooner, even if we still lost. So, well, he did. He took him out. I mean, I think he probably waited as long as he could, and it was obvious to all of us, I think, watching the game that there was an issue there. So, but when your player comes to you and says, "Coach, I'm good. Let's try this out," and he's your quarterback. I mean, that's an integral part of the team, and you just you trust that player until you obviously see for yourself that it's just not working. Right.
Yeah, and he kept making plays to keep you think that he was good enough to be there, right? I mean, obviously the coaches knew they had some issues with the ankles heavily taped, and the mobility was going to be an issue, but they also wanted to get the running game established, right? So you see the first play, you're like, oh man, here we go, pick six, right? Then they go down and they throws a touchdown. So, okay, he makes it back, right? And then he makes a play where, okay, he gives it to Sean Tucker, probably could have kept it. Then he comes back and he runs almost for a first down. They end up getting a first down. And because of a couple of drops and not bad passes, you're like, all right, well, he's all right. And it just, because Notre Dame had such long drives because they're running the ball, you're damn near the end of the first half before you actually realize that, no, actually he is not good enough to win this game for us. And I hate that it took that long, but I would like to have seen what could have happened if we could have got more possessions with 100% Del Rio Wilson. But
yeah, and the Tucker,
in hindsight,
Tucker didn't do terrible with 16 carries, 60 yards, just under 4 yards a carry, which isn't awful, but he was struggling. I mean, it was a struggle. What was his long? 21. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, All right, let's see. Back to Facebook. And Andy. Wilson is by far their better QB. Garrett has done his job as a game manager with his running ability, but as I stated before, you don't beat good schools with him. Very excited to see how talented Del Rio Wilson is. This kid will be a program changer. We got a bowl game already. Play him the rest of the year and get ready for that big run next year. Totally disagree with this. I
like some of the positivity in there, but
there's some things that ensue. Our buddy Nadal, he gets in there. They have a little back and forth. They disagree, agree to disagree. Okay.
I mean, sometimes just experience and knowledge of so many different types of, 4 different offensive coordinators, been to 2 different teams. He's an elder statesman for all intents and purposes. So, I mean, Del Rio Wilson, as much as he might be,
the future's
eventually
bright.
At the end of it be better, right? Future bright, end product might be better than the end product of Garrett Schrader, but that's still 3-4 years away. And right now, Garrett Schrader still gives us a healthy Garrett Schrader gives us a better chance to win.
And we're going to see. We're going to see Carlos, I think, against
I do believe.
So, I mean, that's the last time I'm going to say it. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
Let's see what Alex has to say, Joe. Knew it was going to be a long game right after the pick six. Never able to get the offense going. If we continue to play like we did today, the Boston College game will be our only win from here on out. Yeah, well, I mean, but do we play like we
Those
did?
are past Syracuse teams.
Yeah.
That's what we've always talked about. What are they going to do in November? We're about to find out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you what. BC lost against UConn yesterday. So, I mean, they're not like that scary. And I know he says that's their
Florida
only
State
win,
looks
but
good.
Florida State looks good. Pitt's decent, and people tell me they're not.
I'll tell you what.
Despite what happened to Wake Forest last night, they're obviously still an awesome team. They just got clobbered last night. 8 turnovers.
Dude, you wonder what certain
BC
games do to
sucks.
certain
Anthony's
teams, right?
Do what?
And we'll be able to hit on it more on Tuesday. But Pitt, I mean, that was a big game for them. I mean, that was like pretty much if you wanted a chance to win your division and go to the ACC championship, you needed that game.
And they came close for a little bit.
They did, but I'll tell you what, that Drake May is a hell of a quarterback over there.
Yeah,
and that defense is
so
getting a little
annoying,
bit
too.
better. So
it's extremely annoying.
I'm sorry, but it's true. His numbers are just ridiculous, and that's probably going to be. I mean, yeah, that's going to be that side's division of who's going to be in the ACC championship. Maybe them and Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's.
It's funny because I told a North
right there
Carolina
right
fan that like 3-4 weeks ago.
Well, look at you.
He was just worried.
Just look at you.
Look at
they're
you.
good. They're good. They're a good team. I mean, I thought
They just give up a crap ton of points.
Yeah, I thought we knew they were going to be a good team, though. I don't think it's a huge surprise.
I just wonder where Pittsburgh's motivated with losing to that game, losing the close game to Tennessee earlier in the year. I mean, I know that they were airing it out yesterday, so it's going to be interesting to see where they are.
If someone wants to chime in from the green room, you can do it anytime, by the way. Jake on Facebook again. The game was a letdown, but what bothered me more were some of the season ticket holders around me who were dressed up in Notre Dame gear. This is disgusting, Jake. What the hell? They all said they were fans of both teams. I get that Notre Dame is traditionally power and a national brand. People of Irish descent tend to like them, and the fan base travels well, but how can any self-respecting red-blooded or orange-blooded Cuse fan root against your ranked orange in favor of an underachieving Irish team? And this is disgusting. I read
that earlier.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Let me put it up here. Yeah, I am just finding this out now, Joe. So, where was I? This goes on. Where did I leave off? And in the gosh darn, I mean, yeah, I grew up with Irish fans in Syracuse. I mean, I know they're around because it's a bandwagon thing. I mean, it's a freaking bandwagon. Let's be honest. And in the gosh darn dome to boot. In essence, they were actively cheering for Notre Dame to salvage what's been a disappointing season with maybe 7 to 8 wins over the hometown Cuse potential having a very rare 9 or 10 win, even 11 win season. It's very frustrating. Jake, that's disgusting. I totally agree.
Yeah, dude, that's
and
like you said, that is bandwagon stuff, because that's literally like, oh, I live in Syracuse, I'm a Syracuse fan, but because Notre Dame is a perennial powerhouse, and because I happen to have some Irish blood in me.
Oh yeah, I'm Irish, so therefore I gotta like Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that's so stupid. That's so stupid. You know what? I'm Irish too, and I'm offended by the mascot. Thing offends me. How dare you?
It's just a mythological creature, Sean. It's okay.
How dare you? How dare it? How do we allow this? The Fighting Irish? Oh, all Irish like to fight. Okay. I see. How rude. That's a disturbing, that's probably the most, in 6 years of doing this, 6 football seasons, that's probably the most disturbing fan feedback post I've ever read. Dino and
Play. Right?
I'm going to be okay going forward. I think it just caught me off guard when I was reading it because I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
John on Facebook, Dino and players need to powwow. Too many mistakes were made today. Notre Dame was at it earlier, and we were still figuring ourselves out in the fourth quarter. There were moments. I don't know if we were. I think we knew I don't think we were figuring ourselves out. I think we were trying to figure something out.
Schroeder was good enough to be out there. That's what we were trying to figure out.
There were moments we had our niche, and moments like we had seen in football on the football field before. We need to have all niche, all 4 quarters, not in pockets. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it helps.
That's obviously that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. It doesn't always work. Look, coach knew their game plan, man. The thing is, it was a freaking bad matchup. It's terrible. It's a bad matchup for Syracuse. It's what I feared. I thought maybe
especially
at home
going down early.
Yeah, I thought maybe at home, you dig deep and get and pull that off, but because I still don't think Notre Dame's that good. They just got talent over the field. And the other thing is that they're, our guys are small. Okay, well, they're like comparing, like I talked to Tyler last night. He's like, they're comparing like Kevon Darton to like Alabama nose tackles and stuff. It's like, dude, I mean, what? Why? It makes no sense. That dude's an animal, by the way. He's a pit bull. That dude's a pit bull.
Well, he plays hard.
He does. Hats off to him. Yeah, hats off to him. Wicked proud of him, really, to be honest with you. All right, let's see. Let's finish up with Facebook here. Our buddy Tim. I'm sure there'll be a ton of excuses, some valid and some just delusional, just really disappointed, and proof that you should always be cautiously optimistic as a Cuse fan. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's how we roll. I think that's how we're...
there's that part, or you could live in reality world and see that, Notre Dame, even though they have their record, they get 5-star guys.
I mean, that is it. I just don't think that Marcus Freeman's got a full handle on what's going on. I think everybody saw what Clemson did. Now everybody's going to see what Notre Dame did. We made some mistakes in other facets of the game, but defensively, that's a good way to beat our defense if you have the players to do it. Plain and simple.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, right, is that when you really look at their team, they got a good defense. They got a good offensive line. They got good tight ends and everything, running backs even, And there's always a saying in football that, good receivers can make bad quarterbacks look good and bad quarterbacks can make good receivers look good. And I just don't think that they have, great receivers or quarterback over there in Notre Dame. And I think that that's really where they struggle. If they make some mistakes and another team gets up on them, then they struggle to come back because – I'll tell you what, if we would have started up a touchdown or two, I'm sorry, but I don't know if they would have been able to come back on us just using the running game and being so patient. So that's really Notre Dame's struggles. But the bottom line is because their strengths matched up perfectly with our weaknesses, that's really where you see that.
I somewhat know what an arborist is going in here to the green room. You cut trees down or do you study them? But Anthony says, Dom asked me, are you one of the inside of the Loud House guys? No. He says, no, I'm an arborist. Okay. Anthony says, you set houses on fire? I'm sorry. It's funny. That's my sense of humor. All right, let's go. Let's go to let me adjust this for our friends over on YouTube. Pardon me. These things just don't line up the way you'd like them to.
Hey, too, by the way, just going back, though, even though we did get messy and beat up like on special teams and, they had a defensive touchdown and almost a special teams touchdown, might as well have been. 3 penalties for 30 yards.
Oh, yes. Good point. Our first penalty came in the second half. So, yeah, not bad.
So we cleaned up something.
It came in a bad time. And it came in an awful time, if I remember right.
Yeah, a bad timely one for sure, yep.
So, anyways, yes, very good with the penalties. And I thought I was pleasantly surprised by the officiating, and it wasn't because it was lopsided. It's because I thought it was legit. I don't know. I thought the officiating at Clemson was awesome until they missed the call on Schrader.
-1 play.
Yeah. So, there's that. I can be honest about these refs. I can try anyway. Our buddy Captain Patrick at Will Cuse on Twitter. Everyone could tell after the first effing play this team had a Clemson hangover. Garrett was awful, but playing hurt. Cooper needs to just not play since he drops everything. My 8-4 prediction is still doable, but these injuries are piling up. Yes. I think we all sat there completely stunned. I saw the faces of our Cuse beloved in the stands after that, and you could.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, you could tell. Well, this is not going as planned or hoped, and that's that. What are you going to do? At G Garvin, the big story has got to be the spark we got from Carlos Del Rio Wilson. We are going to have a lot of questions about next week. Did Babers learn from sticking with DeVito for so long? So many drops today. Not sure why. A rough start and too much of a hole to dig out of. See, that's what I'm talking about, man. This is what I'm talking about. Look, we're going to see CDRW for short. Is that short for Carlos Del Rio Wilson? CDRW? That's too much.
Is that too difficult to put an acronym together for you?
It's too much. It's too much. Maybe we call him R-Dub. DR-Dub.
Just call him Del Rio.
Carlos.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Carlos.
I mean, it's his name, after all.
It's his name.
So, yeah, I just, we're going to see next week. I'm just going to be honest about it. I love Garrett Schrader, and but I'm not committed to rooting for him to be the starter if I don't think he deserves it or if I think there's a better option. But right now, I think a healthy Garrett Schrader is the way to go. That's just how I see it. I don't know. Well, let's do this one. I mean, I can only say it so many times. At Cuse Waterboard, Notre Dame fans are the most disrespectful pieces of human garbage I have ever encountered, and I will go into full detail in the podcast on how I drove one into the wall at concessions, allegedly. So, I mean, I'm waiting. He's in the green room. So, there he is. All right, Tony. My guy. What's up? What happened at the concessions?
Hey, old boys, I got to move to another part of the house. The baby's upstairs sleeping. I know once I start talking about this, I'm going to get fired up. So, yeah, I went to the restroom. It was like halfway through the second quarter. And I'm coming back, and the place is packed. And Notre Dame fans are already kind of being douche tools as it was. And I see this dude, this college kid from Notre Dame, just like jaw-jacking with fans in line at concessions. Like, he's cursing at them. He's giving the old, like, DX suck it to the crotch. Like,
oh, nice. That's classy.
I'm a big fan of the crotch chop, but, like, know your audience, man. Like, he's going after, SU fans in their 40s and 50s. So I just come up to him. I'm like, dude, I'm like, what the hell's the deal? Like, calm down. And he's like, dude, what are you going to do about it? Gets right in my face. And I'm like, all right, I'm already pissed off. Let's go. So I give him a little shove. He shoves me back harder. And I basically pull my best Bergeron impression, and I grab him by the shirt, and I drive him 5 or 6 yards as quickly as I can into the wall of the stadium. And I'm just holding him up against the wall. And next thing you know, a couple of his buddies pull me off. Some other SU fans pull me off. Then his girlfriend comes out of nowhere and starts smacking me in the back of the head and in the face.
Oh.
And screaming at me. And like,
oh.
Yeah, I'm going to kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. And I got my hands behind my back because, I may act like a moron, but I'm not a complete moron. I'm not putting my hands on a woman. Like, I know, I'm not that dumb. So his buddies are starting to pull him away, and he's still talking trash. So I close the distance, and I'm trying to get my hands on him. I'm coming after him, and people are still trying to hold me back. His Notre Dame buddies are jumping in. I'm like, dude, I don't want any of you. I just want him. Me and him, one-on-one, that's it. I don't need anybody else involved. And, they just pull him away, got him the hell out of there. The funniest part, though, is a bunch of SU fans come in, they got my back, which was cool. And then one guy yells, "You don't F with the water boy in the dome." And I didn't know who this guy was. I was like, hey, cool, man, thanks. Like, appreciate that. But I don't know. It left such a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, you freaking douchebag.
So my brother-in-law is a Notre Dame fan.
And then the water boy watched the second half from Varsity Pizza.
No, nothing happened.
Neither of us got kicked out. There was zero security that saw any of this. Neither of us got booted.
Nice.
Neither of us even got talked to. I just went back to my seat. Like, I was like, hey, whatever. Like, and this happened right in the corridors. Like, there was a huge mob of people getting involved, and nothing.
Well,
allegedly. I'm sorry, I have to say allegedly.
I think the statute of limitations is up on that now.
Yeah.
I think once the game ends, you're good.
I'm sure there's probably a video somewhere.
I'd love to see it.
True.
Awesome.
Water boy attacks leprechaun.
Yeah, I would love to get the footage, man, because I want to put it in for my combine tape. I got some good push on that block.
There you go. Look, my brother-in-law is a Notre Dame fan, and I told him a while back. I said, I think Syracuse is gonna beat you guys. And I was just waiting for that dude to text me or call me yesterday because I was going to give him a piece of my mind. Because those fans, first of all, you talk about the whole Notre Dame thing, is the entitlement and then this and then that. That's one thing. Their fans are so annoying. It came through the TV.
Yeah, you could feel it in the dome. Like, there was this weird, like almost vitriol, like this evil feeling. Like, I haven't felt this way since like the Syracuse Tennessee game in '98, where like that game ended and you could feel like the venom in the air. Like, people just wanted at each other.
Yeah, well, with that,
I heard "Let's Go Irish" chants.
Yes,
over the.
I did. That's happened before in the dome. That's happened before in the dome, and it was basketball. By the way, it wasn't even football. So yeah. I've heard that before, and it's infuriating. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think
we tried to drown them out as best we could because they kept trying to get that chant going, and we weren't having it up in the 300s.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I mean, it's infuriating, and I understand how frustrating it must be when you're there, and it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Yeah. I felt so like when my team is, there's certain teams who when you're losing to, or you do lose to, where my 43-year-old self resorts to like the most immature, like, child.
Yeah.
Where I could throw a remote, or I could just sit and pout and call people nasty names. And that was me yesterday. Thankfully, I was sitting by myself, and it didn't affect anybody or anything. But I was just this is one of those games that's emotional for me because I just can't stand the things that Notre Dame stands for. I just think they're the most obnoxious. One of the most obnoxious fan base. Yep. The Pitt basketball fans are obnoxious too. And of course Duke, I mean, it just goes with it. But, growing up, Notre Dame and Pitt, I always remember them growing up. So, and they're still around. And that's why I think that, Syracuse Pitt football, I think it's classic. I think most of those games are really good. No matter how good they are, how bad they are, how good we are, or how bad we are, the games are always pretty tight. And that's why we have to go out and win this one, because it's redemption, at least something. It'll give me something to cling on to after the loss to Notre Dame. The loss to Clemson doesn't bother me because it's almost baked in. You know what I mean? It's nice to go out there and win that one if you can, but for me, the Clemson thing's baked in. They're just that good, and I don't expect to be able to put something together all the time and go into Death Valley, especially, and pull that off. So the Notre Dame at home, though, man, I was wanting that one. If I could have paid money for that win, I would have done it. So
yeah, it hurt, man. And like, you know, I'm the perfect example of someone who talks trash, but I'm willing to back it up. Like, if I get punched in the face, I get punched in the face. I've been hit before. Like, I can handle it. I can take it. But, like, don't run your mouth if you're not willing to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to think of myself as the epitome of the F around and find out guy. Like, I'm ready for that smoke. That's fine. But, like, this kid is, like, 15 years younger than me, and apparently he wasn't, because he's picking on a target age group that's a captive audience standing in line and in their 40s and 50s. Like, you know, a 37-year-old guy just came up to you and punked you out.
What's wrong with people in their 40s?
Not saying there's anything wrong, but just like pick your group. Like, don't pick on people you perceive as weaker than you and then think you're a tough guy. Like,
yes, I get your point. I get your point. Don't come down here boasting and proud in our house and don't think anybody's not going to sit there and say anything, like they're just going to clap you on or ignore you. And it's just, you don't have a right to do that. I mean, I don't know many people who would go into, regardless of their size, would go into an opposing venue and start running their mouth without realizing that there's a good chance they might get sent home missing a tooth or a broken nose. That's the chance you take, right? So
yeah. McAfee talks about it all the time on his podcast. He's like, man, ever since live crowds came back, keep your head on a swivel, man. He's like, fists are flying from you don't know what direction.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tony, we appreciate you, brother. Thanks for holding the house down. Okay, yeah. Keep it up.
What I can do.
If there's ever a time where you need to be bailed out, you know where to come. We'll raise the funds. Okay.
Hey, dude, it's New York State, man. We have bail reform.
That's right. You don't even need to be bailed out. That's right.
That's what I told the buddy. He's like, dude, man, don't get arrested tonight. I'm like, I'll be out by 7 p.m.
True.
Hey, if you want to make the rules in my state, I'll take advantage of them.
You might as well. You might as well. All right, brother. I love you.
Love you too, boys.
All right, man. Bye.
That's great. Have a good one, bud.
That was I was waiting for that. So, anyways, it's a good time in the Dome yesterday, and they were loud. That pick six, oh my gosh, they're so loud in there. It just brings me back to Jake's Facebook post, which sucks. All right, let's finish it up. Let's finish it up here with why not? Why not? If not now, when 84, the world's longest Twitter handle, who was just in here, but he did leave. So. He says, I flew 750 miles to watch that crap. Offense had a hangover, and they dinked and dunked us all game. Should have stacked the box and tried to make their QB beat us through the air. I hate everything. Yeah, it sucks when you make that trip. I remember, what was it, 2018?
We kind of did.
Huh?
I said that's kind of what we did.
Well, we tried.
They still ran on us.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It's just it was a size thing. But I do remember making the trip there for the Boston College game a while back, and we got handled badly. And it was just like,
not fun.
It was not fun, but you make the best of it. You know what I mean? Like, like what are you gonna do? You just make the best of what you got, and at some point you always got to realize we're going to lose. And, I'm going to stay to the end. Obviously one of the reasons, I don't think I've ever left a Syracuse game early, even as a kid or whatever, when we've been losing. But when you travel, you stay regardless. Right.
Right.
So anyways, let's see here. Let's do Matt's real quick. At Matt Sherman 52. Man, even with the poor first half, I felt like we were about to come back. Yes, I agree. That tip ball at the line of scrimmage, that lucky bounced into an interception, took all the momentum we had. Such a huge turning point there. I think you change a couple of plays, we win, even with that score. So, I mean, look, there was some of the big plays that were ended up in drop balls, but like we always say here, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, and it didn't happen like that. So it is what it is, and we move on to Pitt, and we could just hope that we beat Pitt. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
What do you...
I still think our defense played good enough for us to win. I think that our offense could have, looked a lot better with some just basic, catching the ball and stuff like that. So, we'll see. It's on to the next one. But those are the two most talented teams that we're going to play. And we're still doing better than what most people thought. So,
Joe, do you have time for one more? You're the one that's pressed for time here. You got time for one more? All right, here we go. It's Dominic. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Joe's on a time limit here. So,
all right.
What you got though, buddy?
So I got to catch the end of the second quarter. Was he hurt the whole game, Schrader?
Yeah, he came into the game injured.
Dude, why? Well, I don't usually question coach's decision, but he couldn't. He had no plan. I'm still baffled by the whole thing. If you're not helping the team, you're hurting the team. I don't get it.
Look, I would tend to agree with you, but if he went through practice all week and coach thought he was okay, and he was okay until he wasn't, right? So
yeah, I guess
So we don't know what happens during practice. I got to assume that he did practice, and there was a play where he stepped on a defender's leg getting up, and Joe, that might have been it. That might have been the point where it was like, we're gonna have to pull you. After that play, he was just not doing. He's throwing stuff into the dirt. It didn't look good. He wasn't very mobile, and.
He looks like what's his name from the Munsters, running around with his taped ankles and calves.
From the Munsters? Who's that?
Yes. He looks like Herman Munster walking around.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Anthony says, don't forget Schrader had that nice TD throw to Gadsden as well. Yeah, that was that second drive. That second drive when they came back and marched down the field, you thought that there's a good possibility that this thing turns around quick, despite the pick six to start the game.
All right, and here's my other thing. I know the 3-3-5, no matter what team it is across the country, is always a little bit, you can run on them. Whoever plays it, West Virginia, us. I think even Clemson has played it in the past. So here's my thing. You're making it even harder when, Tony White says, well, I want smaller defensive line players. All right, you need at least a 300-pound guy in the middle there for the run. I'm sorry. I don't want to say that I'm questioning Coach White. I'm not questioning the 3-3-5, but are you trying to just make excuses because you can't recruit big dudes? That's almost what it feels like. So I want to know what you guys think.
Joe, that's a good Joe question because I don't think much
I think it's a situation where you normally in situations where you play the 3-3-5 is when you actually are more undersized or you feel like your talent is more with your speed and athleticism. If we had those guys, then I'm willing to bet that we probably wouldn't be playing a 3-3-5. So I feel like it's one of those. I don't want to say schemey or gimmicky defenses, but it's a very, very tough defense when you have an offensive line and tight ends like that lining up and them just running straight at you because you normally are undersized. But with that said, a lot of times, there's only very few teams that can really line up and beat you like that and just manhandle you down the middle like that. And, Clemson and Notre Dame just happen to be two of them. But, yeah, if we got those 4 or 5-star big defensive tackles, then I think that, we might not
wouldn't be his
playing
style, though,
a
right?
3-3-5.
Right. So that's what Matt's saying. He says, Coach White doesn't want a 300-pound guy on the D-line. He wants athletes. And
but then how does he expect to beat the offensive lineman at Clemson?
Well, how does he expect? You might not though, Dom. I mean, in all reality, you've got to get more creative, and I guess it's just it's a matchup thing. So,
is this kid from Pitt next week is the real deal?
He is, but I don't think their offensive line is as good as Notre Dame and Clemson either.
All right. It's the first time all year I've been worried, and it's mostly.
Oh, dude! Here's the thing. This is
the injuries that I'm worried about. It's the injuries.
Well, that's fair. I'm worried about injuries too. That's fair. But I think what they need. Look, I don't expect to see Garrett Trader next week. I don't expect to see, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm not sure if we'll ever see Garrett Williams the rest of the year.
I don't think we'll see Garrett Williams again. I think it's a Cisco situation.
Unfortunately, it might be, and that's just how the game goes.
It was great to watch him play in orange, but luckily that's the only place we have depth. I feel like.
Here's the other thing. You said orange.
Mm-hmm.
Those should be the official home unis, man. Like the orange on orange on orange. I don't. You can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with the orange on orange on orange. It is beautiful. And if they could put the script orange, if you could do script orange across the front of the jersey, man, that would be sick.
God, leave it up to you to end the show talking about fashion. Clown.
It would be sick. What do you mean? Those uniforms are. We're Syracuse orange. We're not Syracuse blue. We're not Syracuse white.
That's something I don't even pay attention to.
You didn't look at those uniforms last night and think, "Wow, man, those are sharp." Oh well, whatever.
There was a time a long time ago.
Maybe the pick six from the first play of the game blurred it for me.
I definitely didn't notice it until after that. I can promise you. Was the first thing I noticed. At some point, you just start looking for positives, and the all orange unis were a positive for me.
You remember when Boise State came out with the blue turf, and everyone was all about the blue turf?
Terrible.
I got to tell you,
gives me a headache.
When I was dumb, young, and immature, I was thinking, man, Syracuse should really make orange turf. How cool would that be?
Oh.
But
or the Eastern Washington red. It's just gross.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and the courts. No. Who's got the court? The court that gives me a headache.
Oregon?
Yes, Oregon's court.
Yeah.
Gives me a headache.
It's got a whole forest surrounding it. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, Dom. We appreciate you, brother. Love you, man.
Well, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
All right, Dom.
So, okay. I think that's going to do it for the Notre Dame postgame. And I feel better than I did after the Clemson game. I'm going to be honest with you. I think, these things happen. Adversity builds character. You got to overcome this stuff. And there's no fight in this team. So if you could take anything away from the past two games, they haven't given up. And it's just a question of how they can get healthy and get freshened up for the rest of the year.
I just don't want to end. I just we've seen the Dino Babers November record, and I know that we haven't actually came out with stats to prove it, but we'll at least have the record for you on Tuesday. That's really what I'm looking to avoid, because 6-5 going into Boston College, there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna be happy about that. So we'll see.
Yeah. So all right. Well, look. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Those of you who did tune in for the past two losses, we do appreciate you. And look, hang in there, keep your heads up. It ain't the end of the world. We're 6-2. We're ranked 22nd in the country still. Come on, ain't that bad? All right.
Right.
For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.